Hello everyone, it's the Pyrosaniac, and today I'm going to go over yet another basic tactic in Planetside 2, flanking. Flanking combines clever use of cover with smart positioning in order to help gain the upper hand over your opponents in the battlefield. Flanking is a concept that has existed almost as long as wars have, with a vital role in nearly every major battle in history. In tabletop RPGs such as Dungeons & Dragons, you actually get a bonus if you flank your opponents, simply because of how effective it is. In case you don't know, flanking is a term that describes when a force attacks on multiple sides of their enemy, effectively surrounding them to prevent their escape and hinder their chances at fighting back. Oftentimes, attacking from both sides can also confuse the enemies and cause them to hesitate before picking their target. These few moments can be vital to destroying your enemy's lines in order to help you move forward onto an objective. Because of the scale of Planetside 2, being able to quickly establish when and where to set up a flank is vital to success. Keep in mind that flanking does not always work. It can help smaller forces move up or hold their ground when they are outnumbered, but a single squad can't take out an entire platoon, although they can certainly do some heavy damage if they play their cards right. As a player, be it a leader or squad member, you should take a moment to plan your attack instead of rushing head-on into battle. In the case of a typical battle in Planetside 2, most people prefer to attack from one angle, as being in the midst of a gaggle of their allies makes them feel safer. By using this main force as the distraction, you can take the opportunity to move around to your opponent's flanks. After you've plotted out a route, take a deep breath and push forward. If you're in a squad, you should move in a sweeping arc in order to prevent a counterflank from occurring. Careful communication is key here in order to help you move forward. Once you've reached a good location to flank, take a moment to assess the situation. As I said earlier, proper positioning is key. Once you've found the right moment, charge in and take out as many opponents as possible, using cover to move forward as I outlined in a previous video. Once you have your enemies flanked, if you have the bulk of your forces pushed from one angle, the rest of your allies will more easily be able to attack your opponent's flanks, as your enemies will naturally be focused on what they deem to be the biggest threat. Hopefully that came through. If not, just remember the basics of flanking. Flanking relies heavily on cover and the element of surprise. If you're spotted beforehand, then you'll be cut down before any real damage can be done. Take a moment before charging blindly into a situation. Always try and take out enemies who you deem to be the biggest threat to you first. For example, you see two people on a ridge with their backs to you. One is an engineer with his mana turret, and the other is a heavy assault with a rocket launcher. As long as there are no other immediate threats, you should try and take out the heavy assault first, as he or she is far more likely to notice you, especially if they take a moment to reload with a rocket launcher. Plus, the engineer is locked into their turret, so they probably won't turn around to attack you anyways. Whatever the case, be sure to know your limits. If you're an SMG infiltrator sneaking behind enemy lines, it's probably best not to attack a max suit, nor is it wise to jump into a group of 20 enemies by yourself, even if they're all looking away from you. No matter what, don't worry too much if you die. So long as you did some damage to enemy forces, you completed a successful flank. Remember to capitalize on those small victories. Logistics is especially important in flanking in Planetside 2. Sure, you can take a Wraith Flash all the way around enemy lines, but what happens when you die? Without pressure, the flank is useless. The enemies will simply take out the flank and move on as if nothing happened. Having a respawn point is important to maintaining pressure in the flank. Spawn beacons, sunderers, and galaxies are great choices when attacking a base. If you're defending, consider spawning at an adjacent base and meet your enemies at an unsuspecting angle. If you're attacking a base, especially a large facility, consider capturing some of the surrounding bases in order to provide additional spawn locations. This is especially useful when attacking a biolab, as the auxiliary bases allow additional access to teleporters inside the biolab. Flanking is especially potent against vehicles, due to the damage bonus that they take when they're attacked from behind. In this clip, I stuck around through Zervan Pump Station and ended up behind enemy lines at the Crown. Whilst they're all focused on fighting my allies at the Crossroads Watchtower, I decided to take out my mana AV turret. As a result, I was able to do a surprising amount of damage to their armor column, simply because no one decided to look at me for a while. All their attention was focused on my allies. By taking out some of these threats, I was able to help my allies push forward into the base. Before I wrap this up, I feel the need to discuss counter-flanking. Flanking is a deadly tactic, and there really is no way to recover from it without preparation. If you focus too much on destroying one side of the force, the other side will sweep you while you have your backs turned. Still, focusing on one side and pushing through is still your best bet, because there isn't really room for any other options. Ideally, you like to have some of your teammates who are not being flanked work their way around to one side of the enemies and then trap them between you. You can also dispatch some troops in your main force to flank the flankers, although this works a lot better if you are anticipating a flank. If you do this, have the main force draw as much fire as possible to allow your flankers to complete their maneuver. Just remember to not panic and try to work together as a team. Despite all this, the best way to defend against flanking is to not push yourself in a position where you can be flanked. As a result, it is vital to carefully choose your routes to avoid flanking maneuvers. Either way, it's very difficult to win if you're flanked unless you have significant numbers advantage. If you position yourself between two parts of impassable terrain whilst moving forward, then you will naturally be guarded from your flanks. This is one of the reasons that northern Indar is so deadly, because there's hardly any place to hide from enemy fire in the flat terrain. In these situations, it's best to position the infantry behind your armor to form a protective barrier, and then spread out as much as possible. Generally, foot zergs are not optimal if you're trying to avoid being flanked, so you should jump into a vehicle if at all possible. Other than that, just remember to stay alert. Always try to anticipate flanks in order to catch them before they do any real damage. So to summarize, take a moment to assess your situation before moving forward, attack from unsuspecting angles, and try to avoid flanks at all costs. That's it for today, folks. If you have any questions, suggestions, or concerns, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. And if there's a specific tactic that you'd like me to cover in a future video, let me know. Thanks a lot for watching, everyone. I'll see you in the next one.